Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Thursday, I hope you all are doing well. It is the game preview, Everton's Premier League return against Arsenal on Saturday afternoon. 12:30 kickoff, early kickoff on Saturday, and of course Sean Dyche's first game in charge of Everton Football Club. The new Everton manager has had his first press conference today in which he spoke about this game on Saturday amongst a plethora of other topics such as the transfer window and the club's recent failures in the transfer window, such as getting into the job and learning about the players and the squad and what's needed. He also spoke about the football club in general, about what's going on behind the scenes at the football club. He spoke an awful lot this afternoon about his first couple of days in charge of Everton Football Club, and of course the little task of, playing the current Premier League leaders and a team that currently sits on 50 points, top of the league table, 16 wins out of 19 games played, 2 draws and only 1 defeat, of course, currently sitting 5 points ahead of Manchester City with a game in hand. Of course, they'll be on the same games come Saturday afternoon. Arsenal have been fantastic this season. There's very little point in trying to, coat it in any other way. They've been absolutely fantastic, and Sean Dyche quite possibly couldn't have faced a tougher opponent, really. And listen, I suppose there are benefits to facing the team that are currently top of the league and have only lost once this season in your first game in charge of a football club. And one of those benefits is that the expectation is incredibly low for Everton and for Sean Dyche at the weekend, not only amongst Evertonians but also amongst the general media as well. There's not going to be much of an outcry if Everton don't get a result at the weekend because, as we've just mentioned, Arsenal are in absolutely fantastic form, and at the moment look like they'll go on and win the league. Obviously a lot can change between now and the end of the season, but it would certainly be a failure on Arsenal's part if they aren't to win the league this season, given the position that they're in at the moment. Everton could have been coming up against, let's say, a Wolves or a Southampton or a Leeds, and there would have been a lot more pressure on this fixture because of the fact that those teams are in and around the same position as what we are, whereas, coming up against the league leaders is one that a lot of people will be looking at as almost a free hit, if you like. And let's not forget, this is a club in Arsenal who I don't think have managed to beat Everton in 5 years at Goodison Park. Now granted, it's a very different Arsenal team this season as to what it has been in previous years. A lot more resilience, a lot more quality, a lot more cutting edge about them, and certainly there seems to be a winning mentality about them now that maybe wasn't present in those previous years. But this is a real opportunity for Sean Dyche to show that in the little time he's had to work with these players in this squad, that he has implemented some of the things that he spoke about in his press conference today and some of the things that he's spoken about a couple of times since becoming the Everton manager. He said about the game, "I'm excited, I'm aware of the recent noise around the club, but I'm learning about Evertonians and the reasons why. One thing I know is they stand by their club, protect it and support it. My staff and players will need that." He was speaking as well about players and the current playing squad, and obviously he was asked a couple of times about the fact that we didn't strengthen in the transfer window. He said, first of all, you've got to align your playing options and they need to be better than what we've got. I think we've got some very talented players. That was about going into the free agents market in the, obviously at the moment because the transfer window's closed and Everton have been linked with a couple of free agents over the last 24 hours. He said, it starts with my team because we're the team behind the team and we have to be aligned. I think everybody knows the challenge, and that's to get out of this situation. The team are where they are. The league table doesn't lie. We're there for a reason, and it's all about how to correct that. The players are very honest about the challenge and desire to put it right. I think there is a desire to put things right and become quite obvious. Actually, they know there's an adaptation period. There's been stories about me doing yo-yo tests. It's nonsense. I think it's been a really good welcome from all the staff and players. I know a bit about the feel around the club from visiting here, but the staff have been very open and it's been a very good reaction so far. So he spoke again, like he did in his opening interview with the football club. He spoke a little bit about the fact that putting 100% in and giving maximum effort and giving everything you possibly can is first and foremost, and tactics and tactical prowess and stuff like that almost comes secondary. And whilst he stressed the importance of tactics and tactically setting up to win a game of football, he said very clearly in his press conference today that tactics and setting up to win a football match goes out the window, really, if the players on the pitch aren't willing to give it 100%. Because whatever tactics you set out, whatever plan you set out, whatever strategy you set out, if those players aren't willing to give absolutely everything to try and formulate that plan and make that plan work, then it's absolutely pointless. So he spoke again, as I said, like he did last week when it was announced he was the new Everton manager. Was that this week? This week he was announced. It's been a long week. This week he was announced as the new Everton manager, and he spoke about the fact that the players need to basically get down to basics and, get back to putting 110% in, battling, working hard, being difficult to beat, being hard to play against, being a team that are resilient and that can fight and that can battle, and then, put that into work tactically as well. So I think one thing we will see from this Everton team on Saturday morning is resilience, is hard work, is effort, is desire. Now, will that be good enough to get us something out of this game? I'm not too sure, because as we've just mentioned, Arsenal are in absolutely fantastic form. They did lose their last game, of course, against Manchester City in the fourth round of the FA Cup last Friday. They lost that 1-0. But then before that, beating Manchester United in the Premier League 3-2. They'd beaten Tottenham in the North London derby convincingly away from home 2-0 before that. They'd beaten Oxford in the FA Cup 3-0. A draw with Newcastle 0-0. 4-2 win against Brighton, 3-1 win against West Ham. They had a couple of games during the during the World Cup break friendlies, but before the World Cup break, beating Wolves, beating Chelsea away from home as well. Listen, we don't need to sit here and go into how well Arsenal have played this season, because as I said, they have only lost one game, and that was, I believe, to Manchester United towards the beginning of the season. 50 points. Everton, of course, sitting on 15 points, only 3 points away from 14th. So, I appreciate when Sean Dyche is coming in and saying, that this isn't an impossible task. And he was asked about similarities between where Everton are now and where Burnley were last season. And he said, well, I can't really compare Everton to where Burnley were, because he said I was sacked midway through that season, so that season didn't end with me. But he did say, what I can do is I can compare this current Everton situation with the situation at Burnley when they were in the European competition, when they were in the Europa League, and ultimately their league form suffered because of that. And I can't remember how many points after how many games they were on, but they were in a worse position than what we are now, and they ended up getting out of that and, of course, surviving. So when you actually look at the table in the grand scheme of things, obviously a win on Saturday would be absolutely unbelievable, but a couple of wins all of a sudden takes you out of it. It's just the fact that Everton haven't looked like being able to pick up one win, never mind the couple of wins in the last 4 or 5 months or so. So that's really the task for the manager, and that's obviously something that he's got to drag out of these players. And as I said, although this game on the front of it and to the just standard, when you're looking at with Everton playing this weekend, oh my god, they're playing league leaders Arsenal, it seems like an absolute disaster and a travesty, and oh my god, there's no chance of them getting anything out of that. And that might well be the case. Arsenal might turn up, and because of their quality, because of their confidence, because of the feel around that football club at the moment, they might go 1-0 up in the opening 10-15 minutes, and because of, again, the feel and the lack of confidence around Everton at the moment, heads might drop a little bit and we might lose 4-5-6-0. Who knows? That's quite possible, but it's also quite possible that this Arsenal team may be a little bit shocked by a reaction from an Everton team that they maybe don't expect. And obviously Sean Dyche has come in, sets up a certain way, demands absolutely everything from this playing squad, and who knows, maybe we can scrape a result out of this game. As I said, we've genuinely got a good record against Arsenal at Goodison Park, so it's not beyond the realms of possibility that Everton can turn this round. And it's very, very Everton to lose against all of the teams that are around you in the Premier League table, and then beat the team that are currently flying at the top of the table with, who look unstoppable at the moment. That's very Everton to do, isn't it? So I'm not saying we will do that, by the way. I'm not sitting here saying that, we're going to win this game and I'm confident. And also I'm not excusing the situation that we're in by saying that we're only a couple of wins away from being out of it. I'm just trying to add a little bit of positivity, a little bit of realism, and treat this new era under Sean Dyche as a fresh start, because that's exactly what it is, and that's how it deserves to be treated. Ultimately, none of this is Sean Dyche's fault. It's not Sean Dyche's fault we're in this position. It's not Sean Dyche's fault that, once again, we're in a relegation battle for the second season on the bounce. We all know the issues at this football club. We done the live stream last night, and a massive thank you, by the way, for all of the support on the live stream last night. I really, really do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to me, and that did get quite emotional. That did get quite heated. It got quite, as I said, to the point where, again, I was feeling myself getting really angry and frustrated and annoyed with the situation, and that doesn't change. Even if Everton go out and win on the weekend, that doesn't change my feelings towards those people that are in charge of the football club, who have once again shown their ineptitude and once again shown their inability to successfully run this football club, and have let down a manager that's been here for a matter of moments. But as Sean Dyche said in his press conference today, it is now ultimately about working with what he's got. If he can go into the free agent market and bring in a couple of names, then brilliant. If not, then ultimately he's got to work with what he's got to try and squeeze the absolute best out of what he's got, and make the best out of this situation. We know the quality that Arsenal bring, the likes of Bukayo Saka, who's an absolutely phenomenal talent, Alexander Zinchenko, who was a really, really good bit of business in the summer, Martin Ødegaard, Gabriel Martinelli, who I'm an absolute massive fan of. Obviously, they've brought in a couple of names in the January transfer window as well. Trossard has come in from Brighton, who is a really talented player. Jorginho, who I really, really rate, to be honest with you, and I'm quite surprised that certain other clubs that are maybe challenging to try and finish at the top end of the table weren't in for Jorginho. I think he's a really, really reliable central midfielder, been really reliable for Chelsea, won the European Cup, won the Euros, of course, and may well win the Premier League now as well. Already scored against Everton this season at Goodison, that penalty for Chelsea. So Arsenal have done some really, really good bits of business this January, and generally are looking like they are going in the right direction. Even if they do miss out on the league title this season for whatever reason, we know Manchester City are capable of going on a 10-15 game win streak, and Arsenal maybe towards the latter ends of the season might be able to keep up with that. They're progressing really, really well, and Mikel Arteta is doing a fantastic job there. And Arsenal will be coming into this game thinking this isn't a problem. We're playing a team that are rock bottom on confidence. Okay, they've got a new manager, and then there'll be a little bit of a bounce, but they'll be thinking the quality in their squad should see them through, and that's the task that is ahead for Sean Dyche. As I said, not a lot of pressure in terms of a demand for a win, because I don't think any of us Evertonians are sitting here under any illusion that this game might be an absolute disaster. But I've said before, and I'll say it again, I think I said it on the announcement video for Sean Dyche, not that I'll ever go into a game of football accepting defeat, and not that I'll ever come out of Goodison Park happy with a defeat, or, content with a defeat or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, if we lose tomorrow, I'll be absolutely gutted and I'll be fuming like I am every time we lose. But I'm very aware and I'm very realistic in the awareness that these next two games are very, very, very difficult for Sean Dyche and these sets of players, and it won't be these next two games that define our season, regardless of what the results are, but the 4 games that follow may well define our season. So that's the real sort of chunk of games that you look at and think we simply need to get, if not maximum points, certainly close to maximum points out of those 4 fixtures. But that's not to say that we should write, this one off, or the derby for that matter, because the derby, Liverpool are in, poor form at the moment and look all over the place themselves. And okay, obviously a completely different all over the place to what Everton are, but still there's a little bit of upset there. And whilst Arsenal are high flying and doing really well, there needs to be a reaction from this Everton team, and there will be a reaction from this Everton team, because there always is when there's a new manager. And and that's not me saying that reaction will be that we're guaranteed to win at the weekend, but put it this way, I wouldn't be sat here doing the instant match reaction surprised if Everton win this game of football on Saturday. I really, really won't. And some of you might go, wow, what are you talking about, Cam? That's nonsense to say. I won't be sitting here surprised. Not only because of Dyche coming in and the new manager and the bounce and this, that and the other, but also because, listen, Everton have picked up 1 point since October. We've played Southampton at Goodison. We've played Wolves at Goodison. We've played Bournemouth twice. away from home. We've played West Ham away from home, who were in awful form at the time. We've played Leicester at Goodison. We've played some really, really poor teams at home and away. And we've picked up 1 point since that game against Crystal Palace. And that was away at the Etihad. So I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if Everton turn up on Saturday afternoon and win this game of football. I'd be absolutely over the moon. And I'd be sitting here doing my instant match reaction with a pint. But I wouldn't be surprised because it's just the most Everton thing to happen, isn't it? But it will be massively difficult. And Arsenal, I think, will be incredibly zoned in on this one because they will also understand that there's a new manager at the football club, that there's likely to be a bounce, that the fans will get behind the manager, because I don't think there's any doubt of that. And whilst certain people at the football club might want to spin that to not be the case, and might want to spin the agenda of, the fans might, they mightn't get behind the new manager or this, that and the other. Bollocks. Absolute bollocks. I can guarantee you every single Evertonian within Goodison Park. Steve Jones says, are you on a diet, Cam? You're like the second person to have asked me that today. No, I'm not on a diet. Do I look like I'm on a diet? I've actually gotten bigger in the last couple of weeks, so I don't really know how. I don't know. Anyway, I can guarantee you every single Evertonian within Goodison Park will be behind the manager on Saturday and will be behind those players. And there will be a lot of Evertonians that will decide to protest before the game, myself included. Rightly so, because of the absolute clowns that are running the football club. But the reality is that every single one of us will be behind the team and will be behind the manager. And Sean Dyche has got Sean Dyche has no need or no problem with thinking that will or won't happen, because I can tell him now it absolutely will happen. Every single one of those Evertonians in that stadium will be behind the manager and will be behind the players during that 90 minutes of that game of football. And yes, as I said, a lot will decide to protest against the board before and maybe even after the game, and that's fine and that's right, because I think we can't just allow this to be swept under the carpet again, because that's what they want. We need to press this until the point where change is made and change is forced. But there is times to do it. There's a right time, and I think that every single Evertonian knows that during that 90 minutes that game of football or any other game of football this season is being played, we're behind the manager and we're behind the players. Matt Data James has donated £2 to the team. Thank you very much, my mate. He says, I believe in Dyche, come on you Blues. Well, we have to, because ultimately he's the manager, and he's the new manager, and he deserves the opportunity for us to get behind him, for us to back him, for us to believe in him, and for for us to be patient in seeing what he can bring to this Everton team. His qualities as a manager, as a man manager, and also in almost like towel dripping, whatever you call that, squeezing every single little bit of effort and fight and determination and quality out of these players, because we know a lot of these players are limited, but they can give more than what they've shown recently. And they haven't got a choice, because, with the exception of maybe a couple of free agents we might bring in, who, let's be honest, are free agents for a reason. And Sean Dyche said that in his press conference today. With all due respect, a lot of these players are free agents for a reason. This is the current squad that are going to have to keep Everton in the Premier League. So, again, interestingly enough, Dyche had a couple of other interesting things to mention in his press conference today. He was asked about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and because of the lack of forward recruitment in January, whether Dominic Calvert-Lewin, his fitness is key. He said he's had ups and downs with fitness. I'm aware of that. Obviously, there's important players, but with his scoring record, he's a very good player, without a doubt. He was asked about recruitment. He said, we worked very, very hard. I can assure you that, because I was here until late every night. He said, as we just mentioned, we talked about the game. He said, we want the fans to play their part. It's choppy waters, but we want the fans to reconnect with that. I've got to earn my spares, and I'm willing to put the hard yards in to earn their respect. He was asked about a message to the Everton squad and what message he had to the Everton squad upon obviously meeting the players. He said, reminding them of the players they are. You don't get to be an Everton player without laying some markers down in your career as individuals and as a team. I think there is technical prowess here. The message is clear. There has to be unity. We need that backing and support. We'll give them honesty and work ethic. Just give us a window. Everton is a proud club with a big history. I have to earn my part in it. The message is clear. Unity. It is given. Even the most disgruntled Everton fan at the minute stick by the team, because they are important, as in they, the fans. And again, a couple of things mentioned there by Dyche, which seem to suggest that somebody may or may not have been in his ear advising him that he will not be supported, because he mentioned Everton fans staying behind the team and behind the players a couple of times, as if he doubted that we would be, even though he full well knows that we will be. But you know, as I said, some really interesting stuff there about the players, sitting down with the players, being honest with them, talking to them. He mentioned talking to different individual players about their stories, where they've got to, how they've got to where they are. And he said there was a couple of he didn't name any names, but he said there was a couple of really, really interesting, stories from players about how they've got to where they are today. And I think he used something along the lines of you wouldn't believe it if you sat down and listened to them of what they've been through to get to where they are. He also said he had an open Q&A session with the players in order for them to air any questions or any potential sort of not problems necessarily, but certainly questions about anything to do with his management style or what he's going to bring or what he demands or anything like that. And he said that, I'd rather you sit down and ask the question and be open, and then we can all answer it openly, and rather than, it go unanswered and it create a problem. And I thought that was really good of him to do, because I think this squad has needed to be sat down and said, listen, if any of you have got any problem with anything, whether it be me or somebody else in this room, get it out now, and we can air it, we can resolve it, and then we can move on from it, rather than it just simmering in the background. Which it seems like under Frank Lampard there was issues simmering in the background. Now, whether they were all directly surrounding the management, I don't know. But yeah, a relatively strong first press conference. I think I'm going to do a video where I go through all of the quotes, or certainly most of the quotes that Sean Dyche said in that press conference, and dissect them a little bit more, but that it will be for a separate video. Again, largely the content you would expect to hear from an opening press conference from a manager. Nothing really too surprising, nothing really too, brain lifting. Nothing, I'm not sitting here going, oh my God, we're going to be absolutely amazing now because I've heard Sean Dyche talk, because the reality of the situation is, we've been here numerous times before. I've been here personally 3-4 times, even since since doing the YouTube channel, speaking about new managers and new manager press conferences and this, that and the other. And I've been here far too many times to sit here and get massively excited about a new manager's opening press conference, because a lot of it is stuff that you would expect to hear, and ultimately it's got to be shown in physical form. And it's down to Sean Dyche now to put everything he said in that press conference into action, and for us to see that, or at least see a outline of it, a skeleton of it, a prototype of it on Saturday afternoon. And then obviously as the weeks go on, we'll see more and more of that. But yeah, a couple of good bits of sound bites as well, and as I said, generally a strong opening press conference for the manager. So who does he go with? Who does he start at the weekend? Who is his predicted starting 11? Now, obviously, this is nigh on impossible to predict, because we've got a new manager, and he might have his different, he will have his different way of playing. He will have his different way of setting up. Who knows? He might prefer Michael Keane over Conor Cody. Who knows? He might prefer Dwight McNeil at left back over Vitaly Mykolenko. Who knows? I'm going to try my hardest to predict the starting 11, because that's what we do in every preview. But as I said, it may be massively different. We all know Sean Dyche is famous for the old 4-4-2. Do I think he will go with a 4-4-2 on the weekend? No, I don't. I think he will stay with the 5 at the back. I think Jordan Pickford will be in goal. I think you will see Vitaly Mykolenko left wing back with Seamus Coleman right wing back, just because I think they're the safest options for Sean Dyche to go with as his, in his opening game. Personally, for me, I'd rather see Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate, to be honest with you, because I think, okay, you could say, well, Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate don't do anything going forward, so how can they be wing backs? But Mykolenko and Seamus Coleman don't do anything going forward, so they shouldn't be wing backs either. Ruben Vinagre very clearly isn't in the conversation. Maybe he will be under the new manager, who knows? But as of now, he doesn't seem to be in that conversation. But yeah, I personally now at this point think Everton should revert to the old Carlo Ancelotti at Christmas, where we had absolutely no fullbacks available, so we had to go with Ben Godfrey at left back and Mason Holgate at right back, and just have 4 defenders across the back line. And although we had absolutely no forward sort of cover whatsoever, we were at least more solid defensively. And to be honest, with Seamus Coleman and Vitaly Mykolenko, we've got no forward quality, so we may as well be better defensively. But that isn't going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. So I'm going to go with Seamus right wing back, Mykolenko left wing back. I am going to go with 3 centre backs. I'm going to go with Cody Tarkowski and Mina. The manager said today about the fitness of Michael Keane. He said he's getting better. He is improving week in, week out. He also said Ben Godfrey is getting fitted as well. I'd probably rather see Ben Godfrey in there if he's fit, but I'm not too sure whether or not he's going to be fit. So I'm going to go with Yerry Mina. Sorry, I just completely lost me trail of thought there. I am going to go with Yerry Mina in there instead of Ben Godfrey. Again, Yerry Mina just strikes me as the type of defender that Sean Dyche would like. Big, strong, can wind people up, can get in people's ear, and not likely to shy out or back away from a challenge. In the midfield, then, I am going to go with Garner and Onana. The manager said today that James Garner is getting fitter, getting better, getting closer, but of course, not fit enough to return to the matchday squad. We haven't really got any other option, have we? To be honest, we haven't really got any other option other than those two. I think Onana has showed over the last week that his commitment is at Everton and with Everton, and that's good, and that's what we want to see. We want to see players that are committed to the cause and committed to improving and ultimately, having a key part to play in what is another really difficult period for the football club. Garner next to him. I think Garner's been very hot and cold so far this season. Do we think Garner needs to improve? Absolutely. And hopefully he will, and hopefully he'll be in a much stronger position under Sean Dyche. And as I said, I don't necessarily think this is going to be the way Sean Dyche will play or will set up in the future. I just think this is what he's going to go for this game, given we're playing the best team in the league at the moment. And then front three, I'm going to go with Iwobi and Damari Gray either side of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I know Iwobi is much more preferred as a centre midfielder now and has certainly had his best times recently in an Everton shirt as a centre midfielder. But we've got no Anthony Gordon. Dwight McNeil is just not doing it at the moment. And certainly fell out of favour with Dyche at Burnley towards the end of Dyche's time at Burnley. So I'm going to go with Iwobi one side, Gray the other. And then Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front. And who knows, maybe he will change it in the second half, or maybe he won't. Maybe he'll just go flat 4-4-2 from the off with Mope and Calvert-Lewin or Sims and Calvert-Lewin up front, and he'll just go full Dyche ball. We don't know. But ultimately, that's what I'm going to predict. As I said, very difficult to predict a manager's opening starting 11 because you don't know whether he's going to stay with what we've been doing and just try and tweak the tactics and the work rate a little bit, or he's just going to go full complete change and see if it works. Who knows? We'll find out at 11:30 on Saturday morning, won't we? We'll find out at 11:30 on Saturday morning. So yeah, look, incredibly difficult first game for Sean Dyche. We all know that Arsenal are in brilliant form at the moment and have been in brilliant form for the entirety of this season. Not an impossible task. Not an impossible task, and when you certainly think of back to Everton's better performances over the course of the last 6 weeks, there's only really been one, and that was at the Etihad against, again, one of the best teams in world football. So, not an impossible task. Will be obviously really, really difficult, and will be interesting to see what Sean Dyche does and how he sets up, and ultimately what he decides to do tactically, and hopefully, as I said, we see at least some examples of that effort and work rate and fight and determination that he describes these players needing to have. And if we do see that, then I've got no doubt anyway, but I've got no doubt that there'll be 40,000 Evertonians behind the team and staring the team on Saturday morning. Whammy says 30 degrees in the shade right now. You lucky boy. It's about 10 degrees here and it's dark. So, lucky boy. USA Toffee says interesting to see how Dyche sets up. Yeah, rain and cold here, says Philip. I don't know how we've got onto weather, but here we are. Wonderlust says Onana is a real one. I love him, absolutely. Han says good suggestion. Cam, Holgate and Godfrey as fullbacks / wingbacks, more toughness and speed. Yeah, that's what if he's going to play 4-4-2, that's what I'd go with. I'd go with them two until Nathan Patterson's back to fitness and Vitaly Mykolenko improves. But I don't think we'll see that on Saturday. Still in Antigua, mate. Got my own place sorted. Oh, there you go. You've answered my question. Very, very nice, mate. Very nice. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. As I said, hopefully we'll have another video up over the next 24 hours or so, just sort of going through Dyche's first press conference and trying to dissect it a little bit more and talk a little bit more about his obviously opening press conference in front of the media as Everton manager. If you are watching live, massive thank you to everybody for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, please leave your thoughts down below and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can as well. But big game on Saturday. Let's hope we can just get something out of it. But look, we know we'll all be behind the players. We'll all be behind the manager. And ultimately, we have to start picking up results. So, whilst it mightn't be likely, let's hope that it comes at an unlikely time on Saturday. Big thanks for watching. Leave a like if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you later.